Hi, I'm Joanna from Scitodate, and today I'll be showing you how to create a great segment using our platform Market Landscape. Join me on this wonderful journey. How do we begin? First, make a good plan. We consider what do you want to find out and why do you want to find this out? Think of all the keywords associated with that topic. For example, what materials are used? How is it characterized? What techniques are used? What instruments? And so on. Another thing that's important to just keep on your mind is the variations that can happen with certain keywords. For example, in the US and the UK, they spell things slightly different. You could have laser with an S or laser with a Z. It really depends on where you are. There are also different ways of saying the same thing. You can say cell imaging or the imaging done on cells. So you must really consider the different ways a scientist might potentially write those keywords. Lastly, I'd like you to give a little bit of thought on how you'd group those keywords. Which of them are similar to each other and why? This will give structure to your segments as you create different blocks in MLS, Market Landscape. Okay, let's say that I'm selling a reagent for antibody detection. So I'd be looking for someone who's working with antibodies using a certain analysis or technique or instrument that supports the type of research with my type of reagent. Okay, so what would I do first? I would create a new segment and then name it, for example, antibody research. I keep in mind that I'm in a paper field right now because I'm looking for information on people, and the people are the ones that write the papers. All right, next we'd be creating blocks. We can structure these blocks in the classic way that we use for application segmentation, and that would be one for topics, one for materials, another for research and characterization, and another for instrument and techniques. Generally, the first block is the application area itself. But in this case, if I put something like biomedical research, then I wouldn't get a targeted audience. And again, let's consider my reagent is only applicable to antibodies, so I will make that my topic. In this case, my topic is also my material. So let's go ahead and write in the name of that first block. Now, when you have your topic, the best practice is to deselect the body search right here. This is because the topic is the most important part of any paper, so it would be included in the title for sure, somewhere in the abstract or in the keywords. In the body, you can find a lot of other things that have been mentioned. For example, there was a paper that inspired the author to go down this path and do some other research. It's slightly relevant, but not exactly what you're looking for, and the people of this slightly different paper may not be your target audience, so I would exclude the body as a best practice. The next thing to do would be to enter some key terms. For example, we can have monoclonal antibody. Now, in this case, you can write antibody with a dash. So let's write it in a different way. It's useful to note that our system recognizes the dash and the space as the same thing. So if you write it anti-space body, it would recognize it the same way as anti-dash body. However, when there's no space and no dash, that is treated as a separate term altogether. So write the different ways that it can be said. Let's continue. Here you notice that I've also written characterization with an S. This is because in the US and the UK, the spellings are also slightly different. So we need to include the different variations here. All right, that seems like enough ways to write antibody. The next thing to remember is that When you have a key term that has multiple words, you can increase the slop to account for any spaces or any filler words that might be used in between. For example, antibody characterization. Well, it can also be that they write, the antibody was characterized in this way, or characterization occurred for the antibody, blah, 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 blah. You never know how someone's going to write, so it's always useful to put the slop of about 3 just to be on the safe side. I say don't go really over 5 because it might end up that the words are in completely different sentences and that decreases the relevancy of the results that you get. Okay, so if we ran a search just based on these key terms, then it might not be specific enough. So let's take a look. Let's click on the match terms, monoclonal antibody, bovine cross-reactivity. Okay, this seems okay. All right. If we search just on these key terms, it could be that the results are not specific enough. So let's get some better fit by adding another block. Let's call this characterization. Here we can add phrases and words that represent techniques and analysis used to support antibody development in the research. This could include phage display. Okay, so now we see that I've included the body as part of this characterization block because this includes different things that might not be as relevant as those in the title but are still relevant to our search to help give it some form. Okay, here we have a decent amount of results. However, let us refine the terms because
I might not be an expert on antibodies.
So let's see what the experts themselves have to say. Here we can get some clues to see if there are other words that we can also include in our segment. So, remember my goal was to identify the people doing research on antibodies using certain instruments. So here we can have another block for instruments. I copy and pasted from one of the results that included some more techniques. So I'll put it here. All right, what other instruments or techniques can we think of that has to do with our antibody reagent? Well, cytometry, cell imaging, in silico, mass spectrometry. So it's important to think of the instruments that might be used and also instruments that other scientists might use, so not just you. Let's take a look at some of the results now. Oh, well, it just occurred to me that in silico could mean it's done in regards to computing, for example, creating computer hardware. So that's not relevant to my antibody reagent. So I will just take the relevant part here and take away in silico. For this, I would add a block and name it exclude and put all of the words I don't want to necessarily have or that might give false positives. And remember to set the Boolean function here to not. That way I will exclude all the results that have to do with computers and that has nothing to do with what I'm looking for in particular. In this case, it would be good to select the body search keep it selected here because it's could be that this is mentioned anywhere, and anywhere this is mentioned, maybe it's not so relevant. It could be an add-on to the main research. That's totally fine. Yeah. Remember, all the main research will always be found in the title, abstract, and keyword. So it is just a redundancy to help exclude false positives so that you don't send these on to your sales team. All right. Great. Now, what should we do next? We've created a decent segment that has decent amount of results, but we really need to validate it. So let's go back and optimize the slot for everything. Let's check page library. Now that we've done this, select pay-per-view so we can double check how they've been using papers. All right. Now we see that this is quite relevant. However, our search algorithm shows up things that are most relevant first and put the least relevant last. So let's click on another page further down and see what that yields. This also helps you to decrease this bias. Okay. Another way to do this is to set the relevance from low to high so that you get the lowest results first. Okay, let's take a look. There's not so much information here. Let's go look around. Looks like we've made a great search. The reason that it's important to decrease the bias is because once you get into Prospector, you only narrow the results from there. So, for example, per region, per date or so. It's not possible to do this in the segment lab. Therefore, here is where we must ensure that the quality of the keywords and the blocks that we create and the whole segment in general is at its optimal. You can also do the alphabetical search to have it sorted in a different way, and then you can check again. A good way to check if your acronym has other variants is to disable all of the other terms except for that one and fetch the results. So in this case, I notice here that MABS is used to show the plural form monoclonal antibodies. Therefore, in this case, I would not include the no stemming option. Well, that was it. I hope you had fun. You can find some descriptions to the key setting options here or in the segment lab. Click on this link below. And as always, feel free to check out our other help desk articles or reach out directly if you have any questions. You can contact us via our chat on the website, the support button in our tools, or at customer.success@scitodate.com. Have an amazing day.